I get overwhelmed by the complexity of everyday life very often. And the one thing that helps me the most with this is actually grabbing a pen and a piece of paper and writing my thoughts down. So in this video, I will talk about how I approach thinking on paper and why it helps and how it might help you as well. So why would you want to think on paper in the first place? I don't know about you, but there are so many things that are going through our heads every day. So many thoughts and feelings. We are constantly bombarded by information and people can reach us basically 24/7. So there's a lot going on in our heads. So much so that we can become overwhelmed by the sheer amount of it very easily. So first of all, writing down your thoughts and banning them on paper actually is all about getting them out of your system. Every time I think about this, I have to think of Albus Dumbledore from Harry Potter. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he basically is this wizard, the headmaster of the school Harry Potter goes to, and he has this device called the pensieve, where he puts his thoughts and memories into, which basically helps him to free up his mind, and he can later on then jump into the pensieve and rewatch his thoughts, but he doesn't have to carry the burden of having them all in his head, really. So it's kind of like that with your thoughts. When you're writing down your thoughts, you basically give yourself the permission to forget about them because you recorded them somewhere. Thinking on paper will also provide you with a lot of clarity just because you're creating this distance between you and your thoughts. It's easier to see fallacies in your thinking, and it also frees you of the burden to hold everything in your head at once. So there are 3 techniques I mainly apply to do this. The first one being called morning pages, which I actually got from the author Julia Cameron of her book The Artist's Way, which is basically a book about creativity. And this technique is designed to get your thoughts out of your system to free up the mental space you need to create something new. But it really helps with processing what you're thinking as well. And this is really freeing. So here's how it goes. It's called morning pages because you're supposed to do it first thing in the morning. Just after getting up, you sit down with a pen and a notebook, and you basically write down everything that comes to your mind. 3 pages full of stream of consciousness without thinking too much about it. Writing down your thoughts, your worries, your fears. It's amazing how freeing that can be, because after that it feels like you emptied your mind and now you're ready to focus on something new. And by the way, you don't have to do this in the mornings. I actually prefer to do this in the evening right before going to bed. Sometimes I even do it in bed. The second technique you can use to think on paper is mind maps. Now, this is nothing new. Yeah, you probably know about this, but I find mind maps incredibly helpful. Just because a lot of my thinking is not linear. It doesn't start here and ends up here. Sometimes I'm just jumping around between thoughts and topics and feelings. And this is true for a lot of people, I think, especially when you're doing creative work. You are having all these kinds of ideas and they might not be related in the first place, but then you'll find these connections. So just creating a mind map and exploring different ideas is way easier to do on paper than just in your head. So all you have to do is grab a pen and a sheet of paper, write a topic into the middle of it. I like to use it for solving problems, for example. I just write the problem in the middle and then I come up with all these different solutions and sub-solutions that I probably wouldn't come up with if I just thought through them in my head. The third technique I use is the one I use the most just because I think it's the most effective way. And it's kind of a combination of the first 2 techniques. I call this bullet point thinking. It's a term I came up with myself. And I don't know if this is a thing, but it basically is jotting down your thoughts in bullet points. And what that does is it's way faster than just writing them out like in the morning pages. It's also easier to revisit your thoughts later on because you're seeing what you have been thinking just with one quick look. And it's especially helpful if you want to come up with a solution really quickly. So I want to dare you to just try this. The next time you feel overwhelmed or there's a problem in your life, don't try to solve it in your head. Actually use a pen and a piece of paper and try to come up with a solution that way. And you will see that it's probably way easier to wrap your head around some things. Now you might wonder whether you could use a screen instead of paper. And obviously you could do it that way. Especially with the morning pages, it's probably a faster solution just to type out everything that comes to your head. But then I've tried this, and of course it's more efficient in a way, but then it's not necessarily more effective, because writing longhand, even if it's slower, can be a little bit more therapeutic in a way. Just the fact that you're writing with your hand does something with your mind. And also you're forced to think a little bit slower, which can be an advantage from time to time. So I basically prefer doing this on paper, but it's up to you. You can try. You should experiment with these techniques anyway. So just try it and you'll come up with a solution that works best for you. I certainly wouldn't recommend to do this on your phone, because there are just too many distractions there and so many other things we associate with our phone that is not very helpful to try to think clearly on that device. So I hope this kind of helps. If so, I'd be happy if you give this video a like, and you'll find a different video of mine somewhere here. Feel free to subscribe, and I hope you have a really nice day. Goodbye.